don't think it's just my relationship with my mother that is causing all the interest. I think it affects a lot of relationships between a lot of mothers and daughters, and I've been told this a lot on the tour.
Bette Davis made a chilling demand before her death. "Don't let anyone see me like this, not even my son." In her final days, the Hollywood legend banned visitors, made a secret pact about her burial, and cut her own daughter out of her life forever.
He had nicknames for everybody, and for some crazy reason, he always called me the little Southern girl. So much of my career has been playing Southern women.
But why? What drove her to such extreme decisions? From her rise as the Queen of Hollywood to the shocking betrayal that broke her, this is the untold story of Bette Davis's final moments. Let's start from the beginning. Ruth Elizabeth Bette Davis was born on April 5, 1908, in Lowell, Massachusetts. Her early life was shaped by an unusual family dynamic. When Bette was 7, her father left the family, leading to a divorce that deeply impacted her. Instead of sadness, Bette felt relief, having witnessed her parents' unhappy marriage. Her mother stepped up, becoming the family's sole provider. She worked hard to support her daughters, even using their tuition money to enroll in a photography school in New York. She eventually became a portrait photographer, and they lived modestly in a small apartment in Harlem. Despite their struggles, Bette had a vibrant childhood. She joined the Girl Scouts, became a patrol leader, and even won a competition at Madison Square Garden. Bette's love for acting began at age 18 after watching Peg Entwistle perform in The Wild Duck. That performance left a lasting impression, and Bette later said it was the reason she pursued theater. She attended Cushing Academy, where she met her first husband, Harmon Ham Nelson. Determined to act, she auditioned for Ava Le Gallienne's theater, but was rejected for being insincere. Undeterred, she enrolled in John Murray Anderson's dramatic school, studying alongside future star Lucille Ball. Her big break came in 1929 when she debuted on Broadway in Broken Dishes, followed by Solid South. These roles caught the eye of talent scouts, and she was invited to Hollywood. Her first experiences there were harsh. Executives dismissed her, claiming she lacked sex appeal, but she made her film debut in Bad Sister after a cinematographer praised her expressive eyes. However, her time at Universal Studios was brief. She was dropped but soon signed with Warner Brothers, where she found more opportunities. In 1932, she starred opposite George Arliss in The Man Who Played God. This role was a turning point in her career, and she credited Arliss with giving her the break she needed. Her real breakthrough, however, came with Of Human Bondage. Playing the cruel and manipulative Mildred Rogers, she delivered a performance that stunned audiences and earned her her first Academy Award nomination. Although she didn't win that year, her first Academy Award came in 1935 for Dangerous, but the win carried a sense of controversy. Many believed the award was a consolation prize because the Academy had snubbed her the previous year for her role in Of Human Bondage. That snub caused such an uproar that the Academy allowed write-in votes for the first time. Winning for Dangerous was historic. It was not only Davis's first Oscar, but also the first Best Actress win for Warner Brothers Studios. Interestingly, there's a story that Davis herself named the statuette Oscar after her first husband, Harmon Oscar Nelson, though this claim is debated. Despite the win, Davis didn't love the film and reportedly disliked the script. She played Joyce Heath, a troubled, alcoholic actress, a role that mirrored some of her own struggles in the tough Hollywood studio system. Her second Oscar came just 3 years later for Jezebel in 1938, a role that became a turning point in her career. Warner Brothers offered her the part to compete with the wildly popular Gone with the Wind, a film Davis had hoped to star in but didn't. During the filming of Jezebel, Davis was so mentally and physically exhausted that she became seriously ill. One of the movie's most iconic moments is the red dress scene, though the dress was actually bronze to look better in black and white film. When Davis won her Oscar, she credited her success to director William Wyler, marking the start of their professional and personal relationship. Despite constant clashes with studio head Jack Warner, Davis became Warner Brothers' biggest star. She was so influential that people started calling her the fourth Warner brother. Throughout the 1940s, her movies dominated the box office, and she was consistently listed among the top 10 biggest stars of the time. Her films brought in over $100 million for Warner Brothers, an incredible amount in that era. Davis commanded unprecedented salaries for a female star, although still less than her male counterparts, reflecting the gender pay gap of the time. For a decade, from 1937 to 1947, she was the undisputed queen of the lot at Warner Brothers. One of the most defining moments of Davis's career came in 1936 when she tried to break free from the rigid studio system. Frustrated by unfair contracts and being forced into roles she didn't want, Davis fled to England to escape her Warner Brothers agreement. The legal battle that followed, Warner Brothers Pictures Inc. versus Nelson, became a landmark case in entertainment law. Davis argued that the studio's practices were abusive, including suspending her without pay if she refused a role and giving her no say over the scripts she had to perform. When asked in court if Davis had to play any role assigned, even if it was distasteful and cheap, Jack Warner bluntly replied, "Yes, she must play it." Although Davis lost the case, her fight led to significant changes. Warner Brothers started offering her better roles, like Jezebel, to keep her happy. Her battle inspired future generations of actors to demand better rights and more creative control over their careers. Bette Davis's journey was as dramatic off-screen as it was on-screen. She married 4 times, and each marriage brought its own troubles. Her first marriage was to Harmon Ham Nelson in 1932, when she was just 24. She entered the marriage inexperienced, but left it amidst scandals. Nelson accused her of being cruel and caring more about her career than him. He even complained about her habit of reading in bed. However, the real story was that Nelson wanted a large sum of money to agree to the divorce. Davis had to ask her boyfriend at the time, Howard Hughes, for help. But when he refused, she ended up paying Nelson herself. Her second marriage to Arthur Farnsworth in 1940 ended in tragedy. Farnsworth, only 35 years old, died from an undetected blood clot after a fall. He collapsed on Hollywood Boulevard and fractured his skull. Davis was devastated and tried to withdraw from her work, overwhelmed by grief. In 1945, she married William Grant Sherry, an artist who didn't even know she was famous when they met. At first, this seemed refreshing to Davis, but the relationship quickly turned violent. Sherry began abusing her soon after their wedding, and his behavior grew worse over time. Davis eventually feared for her safety and for their daughter's well-being. Their divorce in 1950 included conditions that required Sherry to stay away from them. Her final marriage was to Gary Merrill in 1950. The two had a romantic beginning, meeting while working together on All About Eve. However, their marriage soon became a nightmare. Merrill struggled with alcoholism and became violent. They also faced the emotional strain of raising their adopted daughter, Margo, who had severe brain damage. The marriage fell apart, and they divorced in 1960. Davis later called this period the darkest of her life and gave up hope of finding lasting love. Davis's personal life also included a passionate but painful affair with director William Wyler. While filming Jezebel in 1938, their connection was undeniable. Critics even mistook the way Davis gazed at Wyler behind the camera for affection toward her co-star Henry Fonda. Davis later admitted Wyler was the love of her life. Their romance became complicated when Davis discovered she was pregnant with Wyler's child. She hoped this would lead to marriage, but when Wyler didn't propose, she chose to have an abortion. She later described this decision as killing a part of herself. Their relationship ended after Wyler sent Davis a letter with an ultimatum to marry him by a certain date. When she didn't respond, he moved on, leaving Davis heartbroken. As a single mother, Davis worked tirelessly to raise her children while continuing her career. Besides BD, she and Merrill adopted 2 children, Margo and Michael. Margo's brain damage was a constant source of heartache for Davis and put immense strain on her marriage to Merrill. Davis tried to balance her work and family life, but it wasn't easy. Her high standards and strict discipline sometimes caused tension with her children, especially with BD. In 1985, Barbara B.D. Hyman shocked the world by publishing My Mother's Keeper, a book that painted her mother, legendary actress Bette Davis, as a controlling and manipulative alcoholic. Co-written with her husband, the memoir quickly drew comparisons to Christina Crawford's Mommy Dearest. But while Crawford accused her mother of physical abuse, Hyman's claims focused on emotional manipulation. She described Davis as faking suicide attempts to gain attention and included dialogue filled with excessive profanity that many doubted was authentic. The book's credibility was questioned even further when it was revealed that the copyright was shared between Hyman and her husband, suggesting they were motivated by money. Gary Merrill, Davis's ex-husband and BD's stepfather, condemned the book as nothing more than cruelty and greed. The timing of the book's release made things even worse. Hyman chose to publish it on Mother's Day in 1985, just months after Davis had endured a mastectomy and 4 debilitating strokes. At the time, Davis was still recovering and deeply vulnerable. Davis's assistant, Katherine Sirac, tried to stop the book's release. She even called Hyman to warn that the stress could kill her mother. Hyman's response was shockingly cold. She insisted that if anyone told Davis before the book's release, whatever happened to her mother would not be her responsibility. She even claimed that Davis would eventually grow to love the book. When Davis's lawyer, Schiff, finally told her about it, Davis was in disbelief. She reportedly said, "What? My Bede has written a book about me? Impossible. She would never do that." The betrayal felt even deeper because Davis had always spoken lovingly about her daughter in public. Just months earlier, she had appeared on Good Morning America and praised their relationship. Fans and colleagues were stunned by the contrast between Davis's affection and the harsh accusations in the book. The fallout was immediate. Davis's adopted son, Michael Merrill, was so horrified by BD's actions that he cut ties with her completely and never spoke to her again. The Hollywood community rallied around Davis, seeing the memoir as a selfish attempt to cash in on the success of Mommy Dearest. The damage to their relationship was permanent. When Davis's cancer returned in 1989, doctors told her it was terminal, and she had only days to live. Even then, she made it clear she didn't want BD to be contacted. Instead, she asked Sirac to inform Michael Merrill and her lawyer. Davis's only public response to the betrayal came in her 1987 memoir, This and That. In it, she wrote an open letter addressed to Hyman, pointedly using her daughter's married name rather than calling her BD. The letter was calm, but cutting. Davis wrote, "Your book is a glaring lack of loyalty, and thanks for the very privileged life I feel you have been given. If my memory serves me right, I've been your keeper all these many years." In late 1983, Davis faced a series of devastating health challenges, starting while she was filming the pilot episode of Hotel. She had a breast cancer, but still, Davis approached the diagnosis with her usual no-nonsense attitude. When told she needed surgery, she bluntly told her doctors, "Just get the damn thing off me." The mastectomy lasted over 5 hours, complicated by her age and previous health issues. However, the surgery was not without consequences. Just 2 weeks after undergoing a mastectomy to treat breast cancer, she suffered multiple strokes. These strokes left her with slurred speech and partial paralysis on the left side of her face and arm. Doctors gave a grim prognosis, but Davis wasn't one to back down. She threw herself into intense physical therapy at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, determined to recover. She spent hours each day relearning basic motor skills, fighting through frustration, and working tirelessly to regain her speech. Even as she struggled, she famously told her doctors, "I'm not finished yet." By early 1984, her incredible perseverance paid off. Against all odds, she regained enough control to consider returning to acting. For a while, Davis found some stability, but in late 1988, 5 years after her mastectomy, she received heartbreaking news. The cancer had returned, this time spreading to other parts of her body. She kept the diagnosis private and continued working, even taking on what would become her final film, Wicked Stepmother. Davis completed several scenes before her health forced her to withdraw. The director, Larry Cohen, had to rewrite the script, transforming her character into a black cat to explain her absence. Even as her condition worsened, Davis kept making public appearances, including accepting the Kennedy Center Honors in 1987. She battled through the pain and exhaustion in silence, never letting the public see the toll it was taking on her. In September 1989, Davis took a trip to Spain for the San Sebastian Film Festival, hoping for a relaxing break. During routine medical tests on what was meant to be a pleasant European vacation, she received devastating news. The cancer had spread aggressively throughout her body, and doctors estimated she had only days left to live. True to her indomitable spirit, Davis refused to let the diagnosis stop her. She continued attending festival events, signing autographs, and maintaining her vibrant public image until her body simply couldn't take it anymore. When she finally agreed to seek treatment, she chose Paris, saying, "If I have to go, I'll go in style." Years before her death, Bette Davis made a unique promise with her assistant, Katherine Sirac, during one of their trips to Europe. She pulled Katherine aside and asked her to make a pact. "Whichever of us dies first, the other will make sure we look beautiful at the end." This was no casual request. Davis had already planned her burial at Forest Lawn Hollywood Hills Cemetery, overlooking Warner Brothers Studios, beside her mother and sister Bobby. She even chose the time for her burial, 4 a.m., to avoid the paparazzi. On top of that, she made it clear that she did not want a Hollywood circus of fake tributes and attention-seeking celebrities. They're only there because they need work and want to be seen. "Don't you dare let that happen," she told Katherine. She even planned her burial outfit, a black evening dress and a matching fur hat by designer Patrick Kelly. And the inscription on her tombstone would be simple but powerful. She did it the hard way. In the fall of 1989, Davis was in a hospital in Paris, nearing the end of her life. There she made a difficult decision. She refused to see anyone except Katherine. She told Katherine, "I don't want anyone to remember me like this, with this frail body and the look of death." This included her son Michael, whom she loved dearly. Her reasoning was simple, but heartfelt. "They don't see me every day like you do, Kath." On October 6, 1989, Davis made her final phone calls with Katherine's help. She spoke briefly with her son, Michael, and her lawyer, Harold, leaving out her estranged daughter, B.D. Hyman, due to their troubled relationship. During these calls, Davis focused on comforting her loved ones rather than seeking comfort herself. She chose her words carefully, making sure to leave behind warm and positive memories. Even in her final moments, she showed the strength and dignity that had defined her life. Davis spoke her final coherent words just 15 minutes before her passing. She turned to Sirac and said, "I'm sorry I haven't been a better friend lately." At exactly 11:35 p.m., Davis took her final breath. True to her wishes, no family members were present except Sirac. Her room was arranged just as she liked. The lights dimmed softly, pink roses by her bedside, and her favorite Chanel No. 5 perfume lightly scenting the air. True to their pact, Katherine made sure Davis looked elegant in death, overseeing every detail of the funeral to honor her wishes. The words on her tombstone, "She did it the hard way," perfectly captured her life and the way she wanted to be remembered, a fighter to the very end.